In the world of personal finance, we often fixate on the million-dollar dream, but there is a hidden, more critical threshold that changes everything: $500,000. When you are staring at a bank account burdened by student loans or living paycheck to paycheck, $500,000 feels like an abstract fantasy. However, hitting this number isn't just about reaching a midpoint. It is the moment you exit the survival phase of capitalism and enter the multiplication phase. At $500,000, you aren't necessarily rich in the private jet sense, but you are officially no longer broke. You have entered a unique financial middle ground where the math finally starts working for you instead of against you. For the first time, your money stops being a source of constant stress and transforms into a silent partner that earns a living while you sleep. The true value of this milestone is not in what you can buy, but in the breathing room it provides. It creates a psychological buffer, the ability to face life's uncertainties without your heart racing. This is where the game of retirement moves from being a manual grind to a self-sustaining system. The identity crisis, shifting from the hoarder to the gardener. As you approach the $500,000 mark, your entire identity as an investor must undergo a radical transformation. Up until this point, you have likely been in pure accumulation mode. You were a hoarder of dollars. Every $100 contribution felt like a victory, and you probably checked your brokerage app daily, feeling a surge of dopamine when the market ticked up and a pang of anxiety when it dipped. But at $500,000, your brain has to shift from hoarder mode to gardener mode. You are no longer just piling up dead wood, you are cultivating a living, breathing ecosystem. This mental pivot is much harder than it sounds because the stakes have grown exponentially. The weight of volatility. When you have $10,000, a 10% market correction is a $1,000 loss. It stings, but you can work it off with a few overtime shifts or by skipping some luxuries. However, at $500,000, that same 10% drop evaporates $50,000 in a single week. The emotional shock. Losing $50,000 in a matter of days, more than many people's annual take-home pay, can be psychologically paralyzing. This is the danger zone where many investors panic, sell at the bottom, and retreat to the safety of cash, effectively killing their wealth-building engine. To survive this stage, you must train yourself to stop thinking in absolute dollars and start thinking in percentages. You have to accept that your daily fluctuations will eventually exceed what you used to earn in a month. You aren't just an employee anymore, you're a manager of capital, and a manager must remain stoic in the face of temporary turbulence.
The paradox of $500,000, the self-sustaining money machine. This is where the math becomes almost surreal. At $500,000, you encounter a fascinating financial paradox. You must become more conservative because you finally have a significant nest egg to protect. Yet you must stay aggressive because your money has finally gained the mass required to move mountains. Let's look at why this is the ultimate inflection point. The power of scale. If your $500,000 portfolio earns a standard 8% annual return, it generates $40,000 a year in gains. Think about that. Your money is now earning a full-time entry-level salary completely on its own. It is doing push-ups, working overtime, and grinding while you are watching Netflix or sleeping. The tipping point. For the first decade of investing, your contributions, the money you physically save from your paycheck, are the primary driver of your wealth. But at $500,000, your investment returns begin to dwarf your contributions. The velocity of growth. If you are still contributing, say $30,000 a year, and your portfolio grows by $40,000, your net worth is increasing by $70,000 annually. Because of compounding, the next year you aren't earning 8% on $500,000, you're earning it on $570,000. At this stage, your wealth becomes a self-sustaining organism. It feeds itself, multiplies itself, and grows faster than you could ever work. The snowball has officially reached the top of the hill. It no longer needs you to push it. It just needs you to stay out of the way and let gravity take over. The most significant upgrade at $500,000 isn't about the luxury goods you can buy. It's about the toxic situations you can leave. In the financial world, we often talk about financial independence, but there is a powerful intermediate stage known as lean FI, or walking away money. Most people operate from a position of financial desperation. They tolerate a nightmare boss, a soul-crushing commute, or a stagnant career because the alternative is immediate financial ruin. They are, in essence, economic hostages. But when you have $500,000 invested, the power dynamic in your life shifts fundamentally. Leverage in the workplace. You aren't retired yet, but you are no longer desperate. If your employer demands unreasonable overtime or compromises your values, you can push back. If the situation doesn't improve, you have the cushion to say, "No, this isn't working for me," and walk away without fearing for your next meal. The career pivot. With $500,000 generating roughly $40,000 a year in growth, the pressure to maintain a high-stress, high-salary job diminishes. You can afford to take a pay cut to enter a field you actually love, or move to a city with a better quality of life. Your investments act as a supplemental salary, filling the gap between what you earn and what you need. Psychological sovereignty. There is a specific type of calm that comes with knowing that if everything falls apart tomorrow, you will be okay. Not just for a month, but for years. You walk into every room, every negotiation, and every interview with the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need the deal to survive. Ironically, when you stop being desperate for money, more opportunities and higher pay often start coming your way. The invisible engine. Mastering tax efficiency at scale. As your portfolio crosses a $500,000 mark, a new silent partner becomes increasingly interested in your success, the tax man. When you had a small account, tax strategy was a minor detail, but at $500,000, taxes become one of your largest potential expenses. The difference between an average investor and a wealthy one often comes down to how much of that growth they actually get to keep. At this level, tax efficiency moves from being a boring chore to a critical wealth-building weapon. The Roth conversion opportunity. Many people have their wealth locked in traditional 401ks or IRAs, where every dollar withdrawn in retirement is taxed as ordinary income. If your money grows as it should, you might find yourself in a higher tax bracket in your 70s due to required minimum distributions. Strategic Roth conversions, paying taxes now at a known rate to lock in tax-free growth forever, can save you 6 figures in the long run. Tax loss harvesting. This is the art of turning a market loss into a tax win. By selling underperforming assets to offset gains, you can lower your taxable income. At $500,000, these moves aren't just saving you pennies, they are shielding thousands of dollars from being taxed, allowing that money to stay in the market and compound. The dividend trap. You must become strategic about where you hold your assets. High dividend stocks or REITs in a taxable account can create a tax drag that slows down your snowball. Moving those to tax-advantaged accounts ensures that 100% of the yield is reinvested, rather than being shaved off by the IRS every year. Every dollar you save in taxes is a dollar that earns interest for the rest of your life. At this stage, you aren't just an investor, you are a tax strategist. The Great Acceleration, the mathematical sprint from $500,000 to $1 million. The most mind-blowing realization of this journey is that the second half is significantly easier than the first. While it might have felt like a decade-long mountain climb to reach your first $100,000 and a grueling marathon to reach $500,000, the path to $1 million is more like a downhill sprint. Here is the cold, hard math that explains why your wealth is about to explode. The velocity of doubling. In the beginning, you were the primary engine of your wealth. To get from 0 to $100,000, your labor did 90% of the work. But to get from $500,000 to $1,000,000, compounding does the heavy lifting. If you keep contributing $30,000 a year and earn an 8% return, you will hit $1,000,000 in roughly 9 years. Think about that. You are adding a second $500,000 in a fraction of the time it took to get the first. The salary of your portfolio. By the time you hit year 5 of this stretch, your portfolio isn't just growing, it's thriving. An 8% return on a growing balance means your money is likely generating $60,000 to $70,000 a year in gains alone. Your investments are now out-earning the average American worker. The danger of impatience. Because the finish line is finally in sight, many people face a psychological itch. They want to speed up the process. They see the $1,000,000 mark and start taking unnecessary risks, crypto moonshots, speculative options, or concentrated bets. This is the ultimate trap. At this stage, you don't need to be a genius. You just need not to be a quitter. The transition from $500,000 to $1,000,000 is where boring becomes beautiful. If you simply stay disciplined, keep your costs low, and let the index funds do their job, you will witness the most aggressive wealth accumulation of your life. Once you cross into 7 figures, the game changes again, as an 8% return then becomes $80,000 a year, often enough to cover a full retirement's worth of expenses. This concludes the breakdown of why everything changes at $500,000. Would you like me to summarize the key action steps you can take today to accelerate toward this milestone, or perhaps create a table comparing the different phases of wealth? The endgame mindset, from wealth accumulation to wealth preservation. Once the path to $1,000,000 becomes a mathematical certainty, your final challenge isn't about the numbers, it's about your philosophy. Reaching $500,000 and beyond requires a shift from getting rich to staying rich. This is the end game, where the habits that got you here might actually become your biggest hurdles if you don't adapt. Managing the guilt of success. Believe it or not, many people find it hard to stop the grind. When you've spent 15 years sacrificing and saving every penny, it feels wrong to stop. But at this stage, you must give yourself permission to shift gears. You've built the machine. Now you have to learn how to operate it without burning yourself out. The complexity trap. As your wealth grows, you will be tempted to make things complicated. Financial advisors might pitch you complex alternative investments or private equity deals. However, at $500,000 and above, simplicity is your greatest hedge against failure. A portfolio of simple, low-cost index funds is often more resilient than a complex web of high-fee investments that you don't fully understand. Preparing for the safe withdrawal reality. This is the time to start practicing your exit strategy. You need to understand the 4% rule, the idea that you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually in retirement. At $500,000, that's $20,000 a year. At $1,000,000, that's $40,000. Start looking at your actual expenses. How close is that $40,000 to covering your basic needs? Once those two numbers meet, you are officially free. The legacy perspective. Finally, at this level of wealth, you start thinking beyond your own life. You are no longer just saving for a vacation or a gold watch. You are building a multi-generational foundation. The decisions you make now regarding your estate, your beneficiaries, and your charitable goals will impact people long after you are gone. Hitting $500,000 is the signal that the struggle is over and the stewardship has begun. You have successfully navigated the hardest part of the financial journey. From here on out, it's about patience, protection, and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn.